What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, doing a video continuing my deep dive into Jethro Tull's live catalog. Today I'm going to talk about and then rank among the other live Jethro Tull albums I've discussed. Live in Sweden 69, which I don't believe is an officially released live album, but it is available on like all streaming platforms. If it's a bootleg, I'm assuming it's a bootleg. If it is an officially endorsed one, awesome. But it's from a live performance, I think a radio performance possibly, or at least it was like broadcast on the radio in 1969 in Sweden. A very early sounding, very blues rocky, possibly more harmonica than flute version of Jethro Tull. Martin Barr is here. So this is like this is the Barr Anderson version. We don't have Abrams on guitar. Interesting release. And before I get into it, I do want to say that when I started this project of going chronologically as the albums were released, and now I'm just kind of dipping my toes in whatever live releases they have in like their 40th anniversary box sets. It started off really strong with the OG, one of the best 70s live albums ever, bursting out. And then for a while, it just wasn't that interesting. A lot of their live releases from, the 80s and on were just, I don't know if they were tepid, but they weren't mind-blowing releases, and not many of them were that compelling to my ears. And then once we got to the like 40th anniversary releases and some of their more like archival stuff, it's just been like must hear after must hear after must hear stuff. So I get to this one and I'm fascinating listen because it is an early version of Jethro Tull. But when I ultimately come to rank it, it's going to not be kind of anywhere near the top because the quality has become so strong. Especially what they've done, Jethro Tull, is they have all these 40th anniversary releases that have been remastered by Steven Wilson, and usually the bonus discs are live material that are contemporary to the album. So Broadside and the Beast, it's a Broadside and the Beast live show. Songs from the Wood, a Songs from the Wood live show, etc., etc. So as fascinating as this is, and as much as I enjoy listening to it. When I come to rank it, it's going to fall somewhere towards the middle, only because the quality of everything else is so fantastic. Pretty good sounding performance, other than what appears to be like maybe like a tape glitch or something early on in My Sunday Feeling. The sound is pretty strong, pretty consistent. You can hear most of the instruments. It's a solid 69 recording. Like you get 7 tracks over the course of just under an hour, I believe. Some songs that had not been released on albums. I don't believe, I'm not really sure, but I do not believe Stand Up had been released yet. Maybe it was about to be released. So you get a couple stand-up songs, a couple songs off their debut album. But yeah, it's fascinating release. The bass sounds absolutely fantastic. I think Glenn Cornick on bass, just his presence in the mix, just what he's doing on bass is one of those things that my attention is drawn to repeatedly listening to this. Ian Anderson, possibly, I'm assuming he's the harmonica player. They don't I don't have a credit list. I'm assuming he's the guy on harmonica. Probably plays harmonica more than he plays flute, it sounds like, or at least it seems like over the course of it. Almost every song is a long introduction by Ian Anderson that shows off his sort of self-deprecating sense of humor. Also, all of his introductions seem to actually contradict what then happens. They open up with My Sunday Feeling. He's like, just like, hey, we're going to open up with a bullshit track to start with, whatever, just like trying to undersell Tull at every step of the way. When Barr comes in, he sounds great, really terse, really intense, really good plan. there's a weird cut with the bass, but the bass does sound good. It's almost like every instrument drops out and only the bass is there for a while, but then the mix kind of fixes itself. A nice, strong, solid, great opening of My Sunday Feeling. When he goes to introduce the next tune, which is called Martin's Tune, Ian talks about how people are calling them like a jazz rock band, and that this next song is going to show that they're not a jazz rock band. And then they play Martin's Tune, which is like a 10 minutes of them sounding like a jazz rock band. It's an instrumental tune, a lot of flute early on, kind of jazzy rock, though he insists it's not jazz. Very nice, kind of light and bouncy vibe to it. Bar gets a solo, then we get a flute solo. We get another bar solo that's a little more aggressive. And both the bar solos have that sort of long, patient, almost narrative quality about them. He's not going for these intense, almost volcanic solo types things that are reaching like this like climactic peak. It's definitely more of a long, patient, take my time, no one's in any hurry type energy. More of a jam band feel. There's patience to the jam, which is enjoyable. It's a nice pace, but then it also is a case to be made that this is why Jethro Tull didn't stay this type of band, and had they not evolved into like accidentally becoming prog rock kings and all that stuff, that they might, who knows, it would have been a different career, and who knows what peaks they would have reached. And this shows that maybe they were doing this because everybody else was doing it, but it doesn't seem it's like really their game, like they're being forced to play like soccer when actually they're like a hockey, kind of the same thing, but they need to be on skates to really, really shine. But it's a good stuff. Martin's Tune is a fun, nice, loose, kind of jammy song, but there's a lot of other bands doing this in 69 in this era, and that I think probably do it better. But it's still neat to hear them do this. About 7.5 minutes into this, after we get the series of solos, there's like this little pre-written melodic part, and it's kind of a downshift, and it has this very almost like folky, trippy, slightly surrealistic, folky, nice vibe that's really beautiful and really cool and really well written. And then the energy kind of goes back up, and Bar kind of starts kind of like gets a little bit of shredding in. But that neat little musical interlude, that sort of like island among the jamming, is really, really cool, and kind of is a bright spot in like this 10 minutes of like them being a blues rock jam band. Interesting song. The next song is a blues song called To Be Sad Is a Mad Way to Be. This is very much a harmonica-led blues jam. Lots of harmonica in here, very blues-based, very representative of early Jethro Tull sound. We get a live version of Back to the Family, which is pretty true to the album version. Fantastic song. Probably, I think my favorite song, one of my favorite songs easily on an absolutely incredible album. This is a pretty straightforward version of Back to the Family. I might even say that the studio version is better. I think they're trying to stay true to it. They don't really stretch it out or do anything different to it, but it's a fantastic song. Next, we get Dharma for One without lyrics, instrumental version, with the drum solo, really long drum solo. The whole thing clocks in about 8 minutes. Long drum solo. And then after the drum solo, the bass kind of drives us into like a nice little short guitar solo. But it's like, we don't need a 4 or 5 minute drum solo in like a 50-minute album. I applaud Jethro Tull to almost always giving us a drum solo in every single tour live album. It seems like they are committed to making sure everybody gets some here. So we get Dharma for One. We get a really, really long jammed out version of Nothing Is Easy. Bar's initial solo is kind of like a shredding solo, a lot more sort of him showing off his chops than the earlier Martin's Tune. We get a bass, the bass bar, the bass again is just the standout here. But we get a really nice extended bar solo, then we get a harmonica solo, then we get some more flute, just a really nice long middle jam session that, again, it's interesting to hear. It's neat to hear them stretch out, but it is, I would say, a case to be made that this isn't their strength. We go back into the end of the song, we get the final vocals, and then the last section, when they go into like the, the more playful ending as it is on the studio version, we get kind of longer, another bar solo snuck in there, and this kind of part is also extended out a little and is a little more jammy and playful. And I think that works better because it's not just a vast open space that they have to fill up, but it's like changes that they're kind of extending, and like, hey, we got to hit this, we got to hit this. Seems a little more interesting, like the second half of this jam, but it's still got a really good loose vibe to it, and it shows that when they eventually want to do it, when they start to really tighten up their sets and they don't really have these long extended jam sessions, those few pockets of jamminess do work really well, and I think the end of Nothing is Easy kind of shows why. And then it closes out with a really solid song for Jeffrey that just sounds great. It's a good way to end the set or the show. So I enjoyed this. I think it is something that is more enjoyable if you are already a Tull fan and you want to like listen to early Tull and see like where their roots are and what they were doing early on live, especially after Barr recently joined the band. But if you're new to Tull, I don't think this is a good place to start. There's a couple shows from 70, which kind of a representation are good representations of this early Tull sound, but also show them with a little more experience. Those other albums that I think rank a little bit better are like there's a Nothing is Easy live at the Wild of Ike from 1970. There's a Carnegie Hall from 1970, both of which I think are kind of had a similar sound, but just better songs, better performances. I think there's songs from Benefit on there, which benefit the overall experience. But it's a good listen, and it was no way a bad listen. So including this one, I've done 14 Tull albums so far. This is where I would rank this one. I have it all the way down in number 9. Everything from 9 on, I think is, I'm not going to say a must hear, but I don't think you can go wrong with. Even that number 8, I have Live at Hammersmith 84, which was from the Under Wraps tour, the oft maligned, if not always maligned Under Wraps. I think the tour is pretty fascinating because there really is this stark like, hey, let's play a song off Under Wraps. Let's play a song that is not off Under Wraps that sounds nothing like Under Wraps. And that contrast, I still find compelling. And then everything above that, everything, the Nothing is Easy, the Madison Square Garden, those Germany, all those 40th anniversary shows, all those things are fantastic. But still, for me, their peak live album is that first one they did, Bursting Out, which has a nice balance of everything. But yeah, that's my ranking of the live albums. So that's my thoughts on this album, live in Sweden, 1969. I know it is out there on streaming. You can get it on Discogs also if you're looking to purchase it. But an interesting listen that I definitely think is more for the hardcore Tull fans. Or if you only like early Tull, if your favorite 3 albums are the debut, or this was Stand Up and Benefit, then this might be something you like because it has that very early blues rock 69, 70 sound. So yeah, that's it. Those are my thoughts. This has been a fun little deep dive. Got a handful of more Tull albums, live albums to go in this little journey before we hop onto something else. But this has been fun. Been really, really fun. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment. And if you haven't heard this, check it out, man. It was a solid listen. All right. That's all I got. Peace. Talk to you later.